Hey my loves! Welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be really quick, and I actually want to take some time to just reintroduce myself to the platform given today's topic. Hi, I'm Janae. I am in medical school and I do create content. However, I do not consider myself as a med influencer. A lot of the times what I've noticed is that people who consider themselves medfluencers, right? 99% of their uploads look like this. How to study, here's my advice, here's the MCAT, repeat, here's my day in the life as I'm in school, as I'm studying, as I'm in class, repeat, advice, study. So just in general, you don't really know who they are. You don't really know them outside of their identity as a med student. And so I don't consider myself a medfluencer because I think that my uploads, while yes, I am labeling them as med student day in the life, med student this, it's really just me being me. It's me being a normal person in my medical school background. It's the scenery. It's not the main point of a lot of my uploads. And I think that for the ones whose main point, whose main identity is them being in medical school, having this advice, having this expertise, they end up kind of pigeonholing themselves into a niche that, in my opinion, doesn't really exist. In order to be an influencer, you have to have a marketable product. Okay, either one that you create on your own or one that you are pushing to your audience on behalf of a company. So if you are a beauty influencer, you might push a mascara, a foundation, a blush, whatever. So it becomes a bit problematic, in my opinion, when you say you're a medfluencer, because what the hell is the product? For a lot of people, it ends up being their experience and their expertise itself as the product, right? So they'll say something like, buy my $100 boot camp so that you can study like me and be as successful as I am and be at the top of your class. Pay me $70 to give you a mock interview so that way you can get into medical school too. And I just think that that's weird because it is not realistic. A lot of times your success, your individual success is not reproducible because you cannot take into account all of the other things that contributed to your success. To say that your study habits alone got you to the top of your class is just not true. Somebody could take that exact same study plan and not be as successful because they don't have your same internal characteristics. What works for you, what works for me is going to be very, very different, and it's going to be very different for different reasons. I just kind of side-eye people who market and sell that kind of thing. Not because I'm knocking anybody's hustle, hey, get the bag by whatever means, I guess. I just feel like it's just not a real thing. I also think that it contributes to an ongoing problem in medicine and that there is a lot of inequity, not inequality, inequity, as in we could be studying for the same exact exam, but I don't have access to the same resources that you do. And then not only that, I just don't even have the same background. So a rich person who has a private tutor and then on top of that can afford to pay for a $100, $1,000 boot camp is gonna have an entirely different experience than the person that is working a 9-to-5 while also taking care of a child and then trying to study in their free time. Obviously, I know that some people strongly feel that medicine shouldn't be open to everybody, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and that it is just the way it is. I think that that is a part of the inherent elitism of medicine, so I'm never gonna agree with that. I just don't think that us as med students, as student doctors in training, even once you become a full-fledged physician, I just don't think that that is a gap that we should be contributing to. You know, if you really wanna make a difference, if you really wanna make an impact, be a mentor. Pick up an individual student, help them see through their process, because I think that that is much more impactful and realistic for a true success story than being like, hey, buy my class or follow my study schedule. I don't know. I just don't think that that's, again, real. Something else that I really find interesting with this whole conversation about medfluencers quitting specifically is the fact that people are upset that because they quit, they now have no room to talk. I don't necessarily agree with that. I feel like you can still give your advice and whatever because you were successful up to a point, right? You were successful up to the point that you quit, and you can still be successful afterwards and whatever it is that you want to do. However, because again, you've made your experience and your expertise the products, I can see how a consumer would be iffy about that if you don't even continue to stand by that thing, right? Like, how can you tell me to do XYZ study habits and you no longer do said study habits because you're not in school? I think that It's also important that if you want to be a content creator, right, in this professional space, whether it's medicine or law or whatever else, nursing, that you consider what type of content you want to put out and why. Again, I personally do not consider myself as a medfluencer. I think that I am a lifestyle creator, and my life just so happens to be in medicine right now. And so a lot of the videos that I upload are just me being open, authentic, transparent, in the case that you can relate to me. And maybe what you relate to me on doesn't even have anything to do with school. You might relate to me because I'm going through a breakup. You might relate to me because I like to cook certain foods. You might relate to me because I like to work out and the types of workouts that I do with the gym clothes that I like to wear. I would much rather pitch and market things to these multi-million-dollar companies, right? Billion-dollar companies, and say, hey, give me your product, collaborate with me, so that way I can show how well it works after a 12-hour shift. This is a moisturizer that I really like to use because it's the only thing that prevents my face and my lips from being cracky and ashy underneath that mask during the OR, surgeries that I'm forced to sit through, the 15th lap chole of the day. There's a way to take your unique experience and your unique background as a professional person in training, and taking that and profiting from companies rather than off of the backs of your audience, especially if your audience is comprised of like broke pre-med students, right? Why am I looking for y'all money? Y'all don't have none. And I just think that kind of feels like thinking small, you know what I mean? Like you're thinking small instead of thinking big.
You think it's small. We need to be thinking big.
I think that happens because a lot of times, right, when you start uploading in the space of medicine, you do the how-to videos, follow me along videos, and you notice how much traction it's getting because pre-med students are also desperate. They're also nervous. They want to know, how do I get successful like you? And they're looking any which way. And so I get that it's easy to garner the views and the attention and the likes and the following based off of that, but I just caution that you still have a blend of just lifestyle and personality, so that way people get attached to you as a person rather than you and your career. And I think that panic settles into a lot of these medfluencers' heads when they do stuff like quit, and they end up pigeonholing themselves and kind of taking missteps and errors in what they communicate to their audience, because I did watch some of their videos, particularly the one influencer. I'm not going to say her name because if you're here, you probably know who I'm talking about. I think that it creates errors in what to do next with your platform because you have put yourself against the wall, for lack of a better word. I think a really good example of pivoting well would be this neurosurgeon that I follow, or he's no longer a neurosurgeon. He decided to stop his career practice, and he has a dog named Doobie, I believe. And they go out on these just adventure hike type walks, these cinematic views, and he records them and puts these calming music, and it's a B-roll. Child, I throw that right up on my screen and study with that in the background. I absolutely love his platform, and I think he only uploaded once or twice about why he left medicine, and he made it very apparent, like, hey, look, I'm here discovering myself, finding myself. And I think that a lot of his audience, at least from the comments that I read, they just felt like they could relate to his experience. Not that they wanted to be him, not that they wanted to be like him, but just that they saw things in his journey that hit home for them. And I think that is much more important when it comes to content creating, because it allows you that room and that flexibility to do whatever you want with that. Another good example, Monet McMichael. If y'all don't know her, she's a very big beauty guru, like hundreds of thousands of followers and subscribers, millions on TikTok. And she actually has a Bachelor of Science in nursing, right? She does not self-proclaim herself as a nurse because I don't believe she ever sat for the NCLEX. And yet that is a background that people might be able to relate to, might think is really cool. And now she is a full-fledged content creator that does beauty. Another person who dropped out of med school, I believe in their second year, they just realized it wasn't for them, and now they're a whole entrepreneur. They have their own hair care line. I'm just saying that I think when it comes to this conversation of social media influencing inside of a professional space, I don't think it's wrong. I don't think that anybody should see what's happening to these people who stopped and be fearful of like, oh my God, what if that happens to me? What if my audience turns on me? And I just think you got to be cautious of, like I said, the type of content that you put out and where ultimately you want it to take you. And I know for me, it would be on some brand trips. I want it to take me on some brand trips. I want it to take me on some $1,000 collaborations with companies who can afford it. And yeah, maybe occasionally I might market to y'all a $100 gym set. You ain't got to buy it. I'm just letting you know that I liked it. I'm letting you know that I thought it was squat proof and I thought it looked good. Ultimately, I want you to come to my channel for me. I feel bad a bit for the people who have, for lack of a better word, and as I've been saying, kind of pigeonholed themselves into this role of follow me, just my life as a student, right? That's the only thing that I ever show y'all is me as a student. And now that I'm leaving and now that I'm exiting, what do I do next? for the people who are still holding on to it and being like, well, I can give you my advice videos still, I can, you know, sell you my prep courses still, and getting this kind of disconnect from their audience because they no longer feel like they can relate to you because they don't feel like the product makes sense anymore. I just caution that, period. It's the same way that I feel about like couples channels, right? When you decide to make your love the product, just be realistic about what it is that you're trying to pitch, what it is that you're trying to market, and just be very careful that there is some type of separation between church and state. I think that's pretty much it in terms of my perspective on this entire situation. I'm sorry if it wasn't like the tea and the gossip. I wanted to just talk overall because I know that content creating is really just this up and coming thing that everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to do content creating. Lots of people love influencers, follow different content creators. And I just think that these are things to be mindful of. You know, just be mindful of the uploads, be mindful of who you're following, be mindful of who you're looking up to, what you're looking at, and why. Because I think it's also on the audience too, before I forget. It's also on you if you were following these creators and being like, I'm going to watch them so I can kind of live vicariously through them and be just like them when it's my turn. You gotta be careful of that because ultimately you don't know these people. You don't know these people. They are marketing to you a image that is potentially not even real. And I say that from firsthand experience. I know a lot of y'all fave medfluencers, and they are not like that in real life. Not at all. And, you know, what can I do? Like I said, I'm not knocking anybody's hustle. Do what you got to do. But you just have to be more aware as an audience of why you are consuming certain content, why you are following this person, what exactly are you getting out of their content, and just have an awareness, right? There are buckets and categories for everything. If you're following this person for the advice videos, if you're following this person for the how-tos, if you're following this person because you like their lifestyle and you hope that you live that type of way too, just don't be disappointed if something comes out in the end and you realize that they're not all of what you thought. I get it that that's just kind of the nature of like the social, parasocial type relationships, the online type of relationships. But I think this is just a lesson that everybody can learn from. I know I especially was kind of taking note as a content creator, looking at the comments, looking at the responses, looking at the reactions. And I am ultimately just very happy that I decided to make my platform in the way that I did, rather than what I would call the traditional way of medfluencing with the advice videos, and 90% of my uploads is me at school, because I started off that way. And I'm just really glad that now I have changed and I have transitions, because yeah, I think that, like I said, this is a very good lesson for everybody to look at and to learn. And I am wishing these medfluencers that did quit all the best with their mental and emotional health, because ultimately we never know what exactly led them to leave. They can tell us whatever they want, but reality is not the same thing as what you see on screen. And if they ultimately decided to stop pursuing this career because it was burning them out, because it was getting to them, I just hope that they get better. And that's pretty much it. That's all. I just wanted to give my little 2 cents. Mwah!